My background is in theater. I acted for a number of years, and I started a theater company with Randy Strouderman, who's also a part of this class. And a number of years ago, when I was doing my PhD with Ed, we were doing a class on leadership. And we were doing a lot of research on leadership, and it was a time when there was a lot of sort of new thinking about what business leaders ought to be and how they ought to behave. As it was becoming increasingly important for organizations to become more agile, become more creative, it was very clear to everyone that sort of the old models of business leadership, sort of top-down, control and command, were no longer adequate. And leaders had to get better at figuring out how to lead a really diverse group of people toward a coherent goal, but in a way that allowed this multiplicity of talents and idiosyncratic ability to rise to the surface, that frees up the creativity of the organization. And we were looking at a lot of books on leadership, and there were leadership learnings from Abraham Lincoln and Mahatma Gandhi, and from golf, and from Sun Tzu, and from Marge Simpson. And one of the things that struck me was nobody was actually exploring what we could learn from theater and from the people who are the leaders in the theater, who are the directors, and the craft of putting together a show. And I thought, as somebody who'd worked in theater, there was a tremendous amount of overlap between what a CEO does and what a theater director does. And yet their approach probably to the people that they work with and how they achieve their objectives is very different. So Ed and I put together this paper on, called "There Is Business Like Show Business: Leadership Learnings from the Theater," in which we explored how really great directors pulled terrific ensembles of very different people together to create a really satisfying and really authentic and interesting piece of theater. And so we wrote the paper, it got published. Ed came to me and said, we got to build a class around this. And he got it approved. And so we sort of, from there, had to figure out, now how the heck do we take this paper and turn it into a class? And I knew right away we had to get Randy involved, because he was a theater director. Right away we also knew one of the things we didn't want to do was read theater, talk about theater, analyze theater. We wanted to do theater. We wanted to put the students in the position of having to learn the craft of theater and learn how to collaborate together in a really open and generous way, in a really authentic way, accessing stuff inside themselves that might be difficult, that might be challenging for them, to bring in the whole person into the process. So we knew we wanted them just to do theater, and from start to finish, and not worry about business per se, let them make those connections at the end of the course. And so the class emerged in that way. This is a class in which the students come in knowing they're going to do something with regard to theater, but which we sort of, from the very get-go, throw them into situations where they have to perform in front of their peers. So from the very beginning, they're involved in performing theater, and we also get them to do acting workshops and directing workshops, where they do the kinds of exercises that actors do in order to sort of access real emotion, the emotions that are appropriate for the scene. We do scene study, where we're creatively analyzing a scene and getting the actors to work collaboratively together to interpret the scene and bring it to life. Ultimately the pieces get longer and more complex, and by the end their final assignment is to put on a full production for their peers, which we open up to all of Darden. So they've got to bring to life a real story and create authentic characters and really open themselves up in a really risky but really generous way to their peers and colleagues at Darden in this performance. I see a lot of trepidation in the beginning, a lot of looking around like, are we really going to do this kind of thing? And then there's always a few people who are willing to be kind of brave and put themselves out there and that becomes a bit contagious, and then people start becoming much more engaged in the class, sharing much more, I think, rich and genuine emotion in the scenes that they're developing. I see the students get thrown into experiences, you know, the check-off exercise, where they have no idea how they're going to do this, and you really see across the course of the semester, students really learning to collaborate and listen and build on each other's ideas and be open and willing to try things. And I see students not only sort of experiencing something that's quite liberating for themselves in terms of, wow, I'm really doing this. I'm really taking some risks. I'm really sharing myself in a way I haven't before. But I also see the students really coming to a new appreciation of the people that they're working with. Gosh, I didn't know that about them, or I've never seen that side of them, or wow, this person was terrifically generous for me. They were really there for me when I needed them. So I think there's just so many things happening on so many levels, personally, and the willingness to open up, you know, the collaborative process and the willingness to take risks together and just have fun together and create, and then this really sort of deeper appreciation of each other and this willingness to be really generous to each other and really appreciative of each other, this camaraderie that emerges, which is really nice. I think what students learn as they become more honest actors, willing to really share who they are and their real emotions, I think they also come to see the corollary between that and leadership. You know, leadership is not about projecting some falsely confident, powerful sort of image to constituencies. It's about sharing yourself in a generous way, being honest and authentic with people. You know, I think in learning the craft of the director, you learn the craft of formulating vision, and in sharing that vision in a way that invites other people to contribute their best to it. You know, I think they learn that a collaborative approach to leadership is more effective, and it's far more galvanizing and exciting to the people that they're trying to get on board. So I think there's a lot they learn about the process of leadership and about bringing themselves authentically to the role of a leader. Probably one of the most important things as a business instructor is to find the right partners to work with on this, because I think it's really important to have somebody who's worked in theater, somebody who is a good director and a good actor, and somebody who's got talent and experience, but also I think shares the philosophy of this class, which is about bringing honest performance to the stage. You know, not about bringing spectacle or technically proficient theater, but theater that really allows and requires the actor to create an authentic, real, believable character on the stage and to access themselves to do that. So I think you do need to bring somebody on board with a theater background in order to really take the students to where they need to go in order to get the most out of this class. I think it's really important that the instructors know they have to create an environment where it's safe for people to explore these things. You know, I think, how do you do that? You sort of lead them bit by bit through these exercises where they're slowly sort of opening up and taking more risks. And where through taking risks, they're recognizing, wow, I can do that and I can achieve that. And it's pretty liberating. Letting them, you know, being open to their feedback, letting them lead the process. I think what's really important as an instructor is not to step in and do the directing, not to step in and picking the scenes and casting people and saying, well, you should do it this way. You know, providing them with the coaching support so they understand what the actor's job is, and we do the acting workshops. Providing them with directing support, and we do a director's workshop. So here's what the director needs to do, and then really letting them go with it. You know, I think that's really important. And I think what's really important is that the final project should be a performance for their peers where you invite the entire community in, because there is just nothing as makes you as accountable and it's as galvanizing, and at the end is as rewarding as sharing yourself in that way, in such a different way to your colleagues. So I think that's a really important part. And the other important part is I think you have to throw business out the window while you're doing this class. I mean, let's not beat to death the idea of every day we have to make the connection between business and theater. Immerse yourself in the theater and let them, who are already involved in their business studies, let them develop the learnings around and sort of come to their own conclusions about how this affects them as a business person and what they're going to take with them going forward. So really letting them immerse themselves in the craft of theater and that experience of creating a play. I think in this course, by asking students to become artists, we are helping them to become better business people. I think, among other things, this class is a fantastic vehicle for learning true collaboration. You know, in the business school, we talk a lot about teamwork. Teamwork's really important. But a team, you know, in the business school, and I was an MBA as well, you know, once, a team is somebody who takes a project and they divide it up into a million different pieces and they all scatter to the four winds and do their piece. And at the last minute, typically, put it back together and try and make a coherent whole out of it. You know, when you are putting together a scene or a play, you have to be present all together, figuring it out, and listening to each other's ideas, interpreting the scene. What does this mean? Well, what if we try it this way? What if this character's angry? Well, no, what if this character's really more jealous? What if actually this character's feeling really insecure and that's why they're acting? Let's just keep trying it different ways. You have to do it in real time, you have to do it together, and you have to do it with a real sense of generosity to each other, listening to each other's ideas, building on each other's ideas. When you're performing a scene, you know, if the person you're performing it with is feeling something different and expressing something different, you have to listen to them and respond authentically in the moment to what's going on there. And I think theater and what you learn from learning theater craft is the sort of the purest and most creative and most satisfying approach to team collaboration that you can probably come across. And I think you learn a lot about how to be a great collaborator and to lead a team, a creative team, really well through theater. I think this class offers students a really remarkable opportunity to take a journey in which they learn so much about themselves, in which they learn so much about the commonality between themselves and these different characters that they're playing, in which they learn what it really means to be generous and collaborative together. I think it has, for some students, a real sort of transformative impact in making you see yourself and the people around you very differently. And I know as myself, a former actor, the experiences I had as an actor often really changed me, you know, permanently. And I think there's skills and there's craft to be learned, but there's also some really powerful self-discovery that goes on as part of this class as well. I think that's important in business because I think businesses are increasingly requiring people to bring more of themselves into the business, increasingly requiring people to think more creatively and strategically and respond to rapid developments in the marketplace. And in order to do that, you have to, I guess you have to bring richer richer aspects of yourself. You have to bring more dimensions. You have to bring, what's the term I'm looking for? You have to bring more of yourself to the business. You have to be willing to risk more. You have to be willing to think creatively. There are so many stories. There are so many interesting stories. I remember a student, the very first year we did it. He was a Chinese student. He was a very quiet guy. He was very intimidated by being on the stage. And he got selected to play a very blustery, loud, a very self-confident and cocky character. And it was a really hard transformation for him to make. And he was very game. And he really worked at it. You could see he was really struggling with trying to work through some stuff that was hard for him. And I'll never forget the very last day when we were performing, and everybody in that pre-performance, the final performance, and then right before the performance, everybody's so nervous and running around. Do I know my lines? Is this going to work? Is this not? And he came to me and he said, "I don't care what happens when we get out there." He goes, "I mean, I want it to be good. I want it to be good for my classmates, but I've already gotten so much out of this class that even if I don't give the best performance, I mean, this has changed me. This has made me see a lot of things that I can do that I didn't think I could do before. And so no matter what happens, this has been good enough." And I thought that was quite moving. And I think it was not even just self-confidence, it was this notion of self-discovery, of putting aside sort of former inhibitors that didn't allow him to access certain parts of the kind of guy he was. And he said, it's not just about confidence, it's about saying, gee, I am a strong person. I am a confident person. I am a smart and funny person. I'm a bit of a raucous person. I am all these things that I've never allowed myself to express. And I can bring that with me wherever I go. So confidence is important, but this notion of self-discovery, I just think, and he just looked so beatific. He was such a gentle, kind, nice guy, and it was really moving to hear him say that. Going through this process is more about gaining self-confidence. It's a process of self-discovery, of finding those aspects of yourself that you didn't really know you had, but which you have to find in order to make this very different character real. And I think this class on theater is a lot of fun. It's just a hell of a lot of fun.